Early in March this year, we took a number of senior activists and members from our union to the Commonwealth Parliament.
We've brought about 30 people from different universities and different states around the country. Look, normally if you're looking to influence a government budget, you would concentrate your lobbying the previous year, towards the end of the last year, because generally speaking the budgets are locked down other than some fine tuning. In this particular case, however, because it was very clearly signalled both by the Treasurer and by Treasury that the budget would be reframed in light of the implications of the financial crisis, it's important for us to be here to try and provide some additional support for giving higher education the priority it needs to get.
Overall, I think we talked to about 40 politicians. Our objective was to focus on sustaining the quality of the university, both in teaching and research. One of the new things that came directly from the union itself was a concern about workforce development and how are we to address the issues about the ageing academic workforce. It was a message that all the politicians wanted to hear. No matter where we went, there was a sense in which they knew that we were not just coming to ask for money, not just coming, to want and get out the begging bowl as universities often do. In a sense, we were arguing for the public good and the public benefit.
We met a few minutes ago with Gavin Marshall, Senator Gavin Marshall. Going into the meeting, I knew he had a background as a union official, but I didn't really have any expectations apart from that. In the meeting, he was very receptive to what we said. He did listen. He did chime in at the key moments when we were trying to get our main messages across. And at the end, he undertook to continue the arguments that we put forward into caucus and into the debates that government has about education, really from go to woe.
Most of the people we've spoken to have given us positive hearings. We've had some questions that have been a bit tricky to work through, but by and large, very positive engagement, and they're interested in hearing from us. And I think that's the thing that surprised me more. Politicians get people knocking on their doors every day and are constantly dealing with people lobbying them over various different things. I've been surprised how welcomed we've been, and they are keen and interested to hear from us.
While we're in Canberra, we formally presented the petition, some 16,000 signatures. These petitions were collected by our members. Particularly important was the work done by the Queensland division. They actually collected more than a third of all of the petition signatures, and it was great because Kirsten Livermore, who is from the seat of Capricornia and from Queensland, thought that it was fantastic that her state had done so well collecting all the signatures, and gave a real fillip to the idea of, this work really matters and it can actually make a difference.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the meetings that I've got scheduled today with the MPs. The National Office has provided some really fantastic materials in terms of the lobbying kit that we've got to leave with the MPs and their staff. We've had some great introductory sessions with speakers. Senator Trish Crossan came and spoke with us about how to actually present the material to the members.
One of the interesting things coming here, you're not knowing what to expect, but what's surprised most of the politicians we've spoken to has been the notion of how casualised the workforce is. And the two issues are coming together. One is the sense in which around 50% of students are faced with casual teachers. That's a figure that shocks them.
Well, I wasn't really clear what the reception of the politicians would be when we got here, given that there's only so much money in the pot, and we'd be coming and lobbying for extra funding for the universities, nor how keen they would be, or how across the issues they would be. But it has been really pleasantly surprising to find that most of the MPs that we've spoken to are across the issues in higher education.
We had a regional universities forum where we heard from David Battersby from here in Victoria. We also heard from Kirsten Livermore, who's the member for Capricornia around Central Queensland University. And we also heard from Tony Windsor, who's one of the independents in the Parliament and who is from the seat of New England, so near the 3 university towns. And it was really fantastic to have those people there and to be able to see that regional Australia has not been forgotten in terms of higher education.
Well, I'm expecting just to raise the issues about Indigenous students' participation. I would really like to see that we can tie in the student participation along with the staff, increasing staff levels, because I can see that they're both intrinsically linked.
Under the 15 years or so of cutbacks to higher education, that as people retired, they were filled with casuals. So I think politicians have been taken one by our workforce approach. They've been really receptive to a notion that we have a strategy that could deal with that. Because mostly Vice-Chancellors come to them and simply say, give us more money and we'll solve it. And they have first recognised now that casualisation of staff is important. Secondly, we actually have a strategy to deal with it. And they've been quite impressed, I think, with talking to them about that.
Our evening event halfway through our lobbying exercise was held at the Australian National University, and there we heard from people outside of the university sector, but people who were very integral to the university sector. And we also heard from the President of Universities Australia, Professor Larkins from Monash University. So the forum provided an opportunity for us to share our ideas with the ACT, Australian Council of Social Services, and also to hear from a very young, still with a HECS debt, young girl who gave us a presentation about the modelling of what it means if universities don't actually receive significant increases in public funding.
What we're going to see Minister Davis about is to get his support for the increase in funding, which is forecast for the budget. I thought that the meeting with him went very well. He listened for a while to tune in onto our main issue, and we had to say to him there were a number of issues, but to make it clear there were a number of issues. And he was most interested of all on the regional aspects, because that's part of his constituency, but he was also aware of issues relating to ageing of the workforce, those kinds of issues. So it was a good meeting.
I was fairly cynical to begin with, actually. I didn't think they'd engage quite as much as they did, so that was a surprise. And they seemed more interested. And probably more knowledgeable. But I don't know whether that'll translate to anything, but they did seem interested, enthusiastic, wanted to know details, wanted to engage, they didn't just listen politely.
We were able to get a significant print coverage just early in the week, and we were also able to get on primetime radio and television. So for a small organisation like ourselves to be able to capture so much interest, I think represents the reason why it was so important for us to go to Canberra.
It's something we'll need to do more of. I think as a union we need to be engaging more with our local politicians in our local electorate offices.
I think it was a really good exercise. And I think we should do it on a regular basis, perhaps not every year, but maybe over a 2 to 3 year cycle.